Siddha Kṛṣṇa Bhava Bhakti Rakṣakam Śrīdharam Subhakti Sindhu Sudha Bhakta Bandhitam Kṛṣṇa Radhika Sukaddi Gaura Bhakti Sundaram Śrīdharam Bhajame Bhakti Rakṣakam Chiram Prabhum. With his heart filled with ecstatic love of Gaura, he is the magnificent ocean of sweet devotion to Sri Radha and Kṛṣṇa. Pure devotees fondly glorify him as the caretaker and guardian of devotion. I perpetually worship him, my beloved divine master, Sri Srimad Bhakti Rakṣaka Goswami Maharaj, with full devotion. Sri Saraswati Priyeshta Sevanam Suvigraham Shri Swarupa Raya Rupa Ragarasmi Sundaram Radhika Sudivya Bhava Ranjitam Priyam Vadum Shridadam Bhajame Bhakti Rakṣakam Chiram Prabhum. He is the embodiment of confidential service to Srila Saraswati Thakur, and he is decorated with the radiance of Raga Bhakti emanating from his Guru Varga, headed by Sri Swarup Damodar, Rai Ramananda, and Srila Rupa Goswami. In his Siddharupa, he is a damsel of Braja, imbued with the super excellent devotion to Sri Radhika. I perpetually worship him, my beloved divine master, Sri Srimad Bhakti Rakṣaka Śrīdhara Deva Goswami, with full devotion. I believe Nanda Swami Maharaj wrote this. He says that one day in the year 1996, while working on Srila Guru Maharaj's biography, I was listening to some of the beautiful verses spontaneously recited by him in devotional absorption during the last year of his life. The vivid memory of his priceless association during those special moments once again deeply touched my heart with unforgettable sweetness and charm. The divine essence of these sacred verses, as tasted by Srila Guru Maharaj, is known by all pure devotees throughout the ages and remains eternally ever available in his words as a summum poem of life. Despite my own inadequate qualification to properly deal with such an exalted subject matter, I felt a special inspiration to somehow share this treasure with his devotees. This book contains some of the devotional bhajans and selected verses uttered by Srila Guru Maharaj as he was absorbed in his personal devotional mood. He relished these verses mostly in a secluded way with tears of deep emotion as he became imbued with their bhava throughout his existence. During 1987 and 1988, it became apparent that Srila Guru Maharaj considered his spiritual task accomplished and was preparing to withdraw his manifest presence from this earthly plane to unite with the divine couple in their Nitya Leela. He was most eagerly looking forward to this with divine homesickness, and therefore the feelings of his utterances are imbued with the transcendental sweet pain of separation, mystic loneliness, humility, and hankering for perfection. These songs were mostly recorded during the twilight or the dark evenings. He used to sit on his simple easy chair in the southern veranda or on the bed outside his room facing east. At other times he would sit on the roof of the Nath Mandir before his Lord's temple, which was often mystically illuminated by the moon and the stars in the sky. He would experience the beautiful breeze of Mother Ganga blowing through the flowers and the trees of Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Math, which would cool and soothe him at these moments. His recitations are all basically of a personal, subjective nature, like talking or singing to himself. He was not doing it to be listened to by others, but only to relate to his beloved Lord with intimate internal absorption. Thus many of these recitations, not clearly pronounced, were uttered for his own hearing, as he entered into them and tasted their deep esoteric modes of ecstasy from the Mahabhagavat platform. Such moods of an Uttama Adhikari are fathomless and mysterious and are not always easily comprehensible. But to have a glimpse into them is certainly a great fortune in life. Following the principle that sometimes one may exceptionally steal the grace of Sri Guru Dev, this humble servitor could not check himself from capturing these memories of Śrīla Guru Maharaj, who was often not even aware that I was recording him. It appeared that Śrīla Guru Maharaj was receiving divine grace descending upon him, and that potency of devotion permeated the entire atmosphere around him. I was therefore inspired to save some of those special moments of his divine experience for the devotees who have deep love for him and can truly taste and adore such valuable wealth in their heart. Although Śrīla Guru Maharaj recited these verses spontaneously without following any apparent order, for the sake of clearer understanding of the readers, the flow of his devotional moods have been presented here as far as possible according to Tattva. They begin with describing Śrīla Guru Maharaj's relationship with Sri Nityānanda Prabhu, the representation of Supreme Guru Tattva, and the all-merciful Prema Avatar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, progressing to his love and appreciation of Sri Nam Prabhu, the divine holy name. The following chapters then address Śrīla Guru Maharaj's devotion to the personality of Godhead Sri Kṛṣṇa and his beautiful attributes, progressing to the description of Sri Radhika, the all-encompassing divine mistress of his life. The final chapter concludes with Śrīla Guru Maharaj's Manjari Sadhana, praying to the lotus feet of the divine damsels of Braja to attain Sri Radha Dasya, the ultimate goal of life, under the shelter of Sri Rupa Manjari. There are many other verses recited by Śrīla Guru Maharaj that could not be recorded because of his incalculative, sudden, spontaneous nature, and also out of respect for his secluded personal mood. Where it seemed necessary, the text of songs not recorded are also included to help create a deeper import into his mood. The explanations and elaborations of the songs and verses throughout this book are based on the tapes of Śrīla Guru Maharaj's personal instruction. Offering respectful obeisances at the holy feet of Śrīla Guru Maharaj, this humble servitor prays for his divine grace, which can bring a wonderful transcendental fortune to one's life. It is our sincere wish that the readers of this collection of memories of Śrīla Guru Maharaj receive his merciful benediction in their lives and attain a glimpse into the bhajan of an exalted devotee. So the first chapter is called Nityānanda Tattva. I thought we'd just read a little bit of that. We have some questions perking, so that when I stop reading and say, are there any questions, we don't enter the void. Nityānanda Tattva. Śrīla Guru Maharaj looked upon Sri Nityānanda Prabhu as a great and fortunate source of inspiration in his life, whom he adored as an exalted avadut, absorbed in the esoteric mellows of devotion. Guru Maharaj accepted Sri Nityānanda Prabhu as the personified love of Sriman Mahaprabhu and the non-different manifestation of Baladev Prabhu, who in Mādhurī Ras appears in Srimati Radharani's camp of intimate associates as Ananga Manjari, one of the topmost servitors of the divine couple. As a special expansion of the Supreme Guru Tattva, Nityānanda Prabhu ever remained as an inseparable part of Śrīla Guru Maharaj's bhajan life. Now I remember a story that Sudhir Goswami and Sagar Maharaj told me that there's a lake in front of Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mata. And at a particular time, Śrīla Guru Maharaj announced that he would like they should build an island in the middle of that lake, and they should construct a temple. Well, the nature of many of the talks which had been going on at that time actually had brought things to the devotees' ears that were, if they'd been heard before, no one paid attention to previously. Particular things regarding the position of Rupa Goswami as Rupa Manjari, the status of Das Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami as the Prayojan Acharya, showing us the intensity for Radha Dasyana. Many things of that type in the Mādhurī section. That had been the talk, and that had caught the attention of many devotees' ears. And so when they went away to different parts of the world, this was frequently the talk. So when Śrīla Guru Maharaj announced that he wanted a temple there, then there was a certain clamor about what the deity would be, what deity would be installed there. So it was, someone inquired, will it be Radha Gopinath or Radha Govinda? But some idea like this. In his birthplace, the deity is Radha Gopinath. In his mind, it is Radha Govinda. And Sagar Maharaj told me that everyone was surprised. He shook his head and he said, no, not Radha Krishna, Gaura-Nitāi. So what had happened is, apparently many devotees, because of hearing one thing, they suddenly forgot another thing. And because of their previous experience, there was much focus on Gaura-Nitāi, and actually there aren't Gaura-Nitāi deities established, frankly, anywhere. You don't find Gaura-Nitāi deities established. Gaura-Gadadhar, Panchatattva, like this in Navadvip, I mean. So, I'll just speak frankly. Some devotees were thinking that Śrīla Prabhupada, Desi Bhaktivedanta Swami, had given something lower, or something of that nature. That the focus was been given to Gaura-Nitāi, it should actually have been given to Gaura Radha Govinda, particularly the point of Mahaprabhu with Radha Govinda, like this. So then when Guru Maharaj told, no, Gaura-Nitāi, he wanted Gaura-Nitāi to be established there, many people were taken back, a little surprised at that. So rather than consider that some lower standard, but actually it's true, Gaura-Nitāi, they're delivering Jagai and Madai. And so when our Guru Maharaj came here, that's what he found, a lot of Jagai and Madai. And there's only the mercy of Nityānanda Prabhu for such persons. There's no other way. I mean, you have to be quite elevated to approach Gadadhar, Śrīla Gadadhar Pandit, actually, or Gadadhar. But Jagai and Madai, they are delivered by Mahaprabhu and his Leela with Nityānanda Prabhu. But the extent of Lord Nityānanda is not just that. He delivers drunkards and puts them on the path of liberation. But actually no one can obtain devotion, pure devotion to Radha and Govinda without Nityānanda Prabhu's direct intervention, his direct mercy. So in one sense, that establishing of Gaura-Nitāi, which was not such a precedented thing in Gaudadesh, which is now all over the world, rather than think of it in terms of giving some lower thing, one should think of it giving something very high, actually, worship of Gaura-Nitāi. Here, Śrīla Guru Maharaj is said that he considered Nityānanda Prabhu to be the manifest form of pure love of Kṛṣṇa, or of Gaura. Remembering the grace of Nityānanda Prabhu, Śrīla Guru Maharaj would often relish with appreciation the moods of, of his Guru Varga. Oh no, I didn't. Of his Guru Varga and other Mahajan Padavali, such as Nitāi Gunamani Amar, Nitāi Jivana Amar, Sri Nityānanda Dasakam, and others. Explaining some of his favorite verses and songs, Śrīla Guru Maharaj described Nityānanda Prabhu's great compassion and prideless approach for blessing everyone with the ambrosial gift of Gaura Prema, unifying in his character the extraordinary nobility and humility that fully embody Srimad Mahaprabhu's principle of Trinadapi Samicana. Srimad Nityānanda Prabhu mercifully calls out, please always worship Gauranga, speak about Gauranga, and take the holy name of Gauranga with all devotion. One who adores my beloved Master Gauranga is as dear to me as my very own life. That verse Śrīla Guru Maharaj used to sing. The compassionate Nityānanda Prabhu most humbly approached those who did not feel any loving appreciation for Sri Gauranga due to their false pride and hard-heartedness. So, as not to hurt their pride, Nityānanda Prabhu took a few blades of grass between his teeth as a token of humility and appealed to the people by saying, "Oh dear friend, try to understand that your own highest good is Gaura Hari. You can attain the greatest fortune of your life if you connect with him with love and devotion. Please take the holy name of Gaura Hari, even if only once, and chant it from the core of your heart. With devotional faith, speak about his glories and share your relish with other devotees. Sincerely pray for his grace, for you will surely receive great spiritual benefit. I am your most well-wishing friend. If you can please take my advice and act accordingly, then you can own me forever." Imploring them in such a way, Sri Nityananda's heart melted in spiritual compassion. Incited by that deep emotional ecstasy, he became so tender before those proud people that he invalidated all their pride. In noble humility, he began to roll on the ground before them. As his form became decorated with the dust of the earth, the devotees around him beheld with tearful eyes the extraordinary manifestation of the causeless mercy of Lord Nityānanda Prabhu. They marveled at how their divine Guru Tattva could sacrifice his honor and most exalted position by coming down to the dust of the earth with such compassionate humility. Quite extraordinary. Basically, this is what it means to preach. Extreme humility and great compassion. Then some real preaching work can begin. And Nityānanda Prabhu was so compassionate that it's said here he would beg people to chant the holy name. To the extent that he would roll on the ground. I mean, it's a great act of humility to fall down in front of someone in Indian culture and roll on the ground and beg them of something. It cannot be refused as such an act. I don't know how effective that would be here. Probably not very effective at all. Some other mood, but there is a certain potency in humility. But I think in Western countries, a lot of people, they mistake humility as weakness. They mistake it as weakness. Because as you were all told as you were growing up, be proud, be proud. Your parents told you as they sent you out the door, patted you on the back with your school books and told you to be proud. So humility is not held in very high regard. Nonetheless, there is something about humility. It is very powerful. If you've ever seen this film on Gandhi, they portray that little aspect there in that famous big screen film on Gandhi, which was very popular. In the script there, he's having a dialogue with someone. He's expressing something about humility in relation to non-violence, and he's saying that there's something in a person that even if they strike you, they inflict pain upon you, if you tolerate that, he said, something happens in that person's heart. In his own way, in his Gandhian way, he was describing it like that. And certainly we see it is a fact that when things get bad, get humble. I mean, I've seen many times grievances between devotees at many levels. But as soon as one party is prepared to come down, right or wrong, and one party is prepared to come down and show some humble attitude in the dealings, it's quite effective. There's just something, as even Gandhi said, there's something about the human heart that is touched by real humility. So Nityānanda Prabhu, he was able to touch many hearts in that way. No one could deny his plea. No one could escape him. And in this way he used to go door to door. And sometimes he would enter the house, he would just push his way into the home, break through the door. In the course of his entering, he would sometimes smash up the furniture, clay pots, and other objects which were in the house. And in a fit, like a madman, and he would fall onto the floor and beat his hands and fist against the ground and pound the earth with his legs. And crying in this way, he would beg them, please take the name of Gaura. But again, we cannot imitate Nityānanda Prabhu, but he used to do it. Amongst all the associates of Mahaprabhu, many are dear. It is very hard to find one more dear to Mahaprabhu than Nityānanda. Therefore, if one wants to enter into the fine graces of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then one would do well to serve Nityānanda. So Śrīla Guru Maharaj, he used to say, Gaura-Nitāi, Gaura-Nitāi. He would utter this name, Gaura-Nitāi. Gaura-Nitāi means most merciful. Oh, most merciful. My most merciful Lord. Whereas to say Gaura-Nitāi, Gaura-Nitāi is to request the Lord, please show mercy. Here's another very interesting point. Swami Maharaj mentions that Guru Maharaj's bhajan, Śrīla Guru Maharaj's bhajan, was sometimes in a mood of sweetness, sometimes in a mood of deep separation, and he mentions also in a mood of hankering for perfection. Hankering for perfection. Actually, that's one of the key principles of bhajan life, is the hankering aspect. Mahaprabhu's whole religion is a hankering religion. Hankering means, well, what's your particular conception of hankering? To crave for something, to long for something, to in your deepest heart, to desire something. Hankering for that. Mahaprabhu's religion, the path shown by him is like that. Right up to his last day on this earth, Mahaprabhu showed extreme hankering. He did not show the opposite of that. It's called sambhog. Sambhog. Bhog means enjoy. Sambhog means to be united. So certainly, Kṛṣṇa reveals himself to his devotees. But he does it in such a way that it increases their desire for him. If one gets a little bit of taste for Kṛṣṇa, if one gets a little taste of Kṛṣṇa, then the desire for that taste increases unlimited, many, many times. Now, do you know that there are some devotees, when they begin their japa, they don't give up their japa until the holy name reveals himself? Gaura Kiśora Dāsa Bābājī Maharaj, he was like that. When he began to take the holy name of Kṛṣṇa, he would not stop until he got nāma-darśana. Have you ever had darshan of the name of Kṛṣṇa? But he would not give up the chanting. And sometimes he would go for days. Not that as soon as he chanted, he had nāma-darśana. Sometimes the chanting would go for days, day and night, with no sleep, no eating, no bath, not going outside to use the toilet, nothing. He wouldn't leave his spot. He would not give up the whole name. So, Kṛṣṇa reveals himself to his devotee, but he hides himself as well. And that's his prerogative, more or less. He does that to make his devotee more and more attached to him. As I mentioned the other evening, once we asked Śrīla Mahārāja about chanting the name. Actually, I've heard him say it several times. One time he said for almost 90 years in chanting the holy name. Almost 90 years, I think he said, since the time he was very, very low. But I was not able to chant purely. So will you take that at face value? Or will you understand what he's actually saying? For one who has Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa seems far away. For one who thinks he has Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa is nowhere to be found. It's like reflection in water. It's just the opposite. There's a famous picture of our Guru Maharaj, Śrīla Prabhupada, sitting somewhere and his face is shut, his eyes are squint, his head is a little down. It was published, it's been published many times. One of the disciples saw that and said, "Oh, Śrīla Prabhupada, you look so sad there." And this was published in one of the books. "You look so sad there." He said, "No, that was a moment of great ecstasy." So, there are some opposites like that. Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, for he who thinks he is the highest, he's actually the lowest. For one who thinks he's the lowest, he is actually the highest. So we're somewhere in the middle, aren't we? We don't think we're the highest, we don't think we're the lowest. As I said to some Gurukul children the other day, I said, wouldn't it be nice to know who you are before this life is over? Wouldn't that be nice? You've seen your mind go wild, you've felt your body pain, you've felt your body pleasure, you've got your intelligence, you've got all these things. Wouldn't it be nice to experience yourself, your eternal self, before this life is over? Quite an interesting, way of looking at things. But actually, I cannot say about others, but I can say about myself, we don't experience who we are every day. We're so caught in this world, in this body, in this mind, with this intelligence and all these things, and we don't experience actually who we are, what we are. We say we're not this body, we're spirit, soul, we're servant of Kṛṣṇa, but that's a theory. Right now it's just a theory. It's a theory, and then you have to run all the tests. Well, they say now you have to get compliant. You have to run through all the tests, and you have to come up to the mark of that theory. then one will realize the self. And it is a little different than just theory. It is a little different. The theory is not as awarding. The theory of who we are gives liberation, actually. The theory. That I'm not this body, etc. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All of that is called nāma-darśana. Liberation comes there. For the most part, we've been left with that experience. So liberation, at least in the terms of euphoria, freedom from material suffering, gross material consciousness, and all of these things. But the direct perception of Kṛṣṇa surpasses liberation. It gives ecstasy, ananda. It gives supreme pleasure, bliss, ananda. Premananda, the supreme ecstasy of love, divine love. When one enters into that plane, then he's actually self-realized. Then actually we know who we are and we experience ourselves in relation to Kṛṣṇa. But until then, we're just on the path, we're just on the way. So, an essential thing to develop is the hankering. It is not that we have to set about reading many books, although there are many books to read. Some like to read more than others. It is not that one has to memorize many Bengali or Sanskrit slokas, although some like to do that. That is also there. That is also one of the practices in devotional service, to study the scriptures very, very attentively. But if one has gone through so much study, so much memorization, and even if one has gone through sādhu-saṅga, so much sādhu-saṅga, but the desire in our own heart is not born, well, we've gained nothing. Simply reading books, simply chanting mantras, and simply having sadhu-saṅga, if we don't awaken our own hankering, then what have we got from all of that? Some prestige, that we're the disciple of a great Paramahansa. Bravo. But what did that get you? Your part has to be played. That's just like, somebody from a very wealthy family, they get to enroll in Harvard Business School. Well, it's a top-ranking business school. Well, there are a lot of parties at Harvard. So somebody at Harvard just might be in all the parties. They got the leather jacket, whatever. They got the bumper sticker, Harvard. And they got the prestige of it all. But in the end, they might even end up with some degree. That is also not the goal, just to get your certificate. One has to come out of there with an education, isn't it? So we see sometimes, there's actually an example, someone wants to come close to the guru, he's like a fly. The fly lands on the guru's lap. He is also very close to the guru. Or he's buzzing around his head, landed on his sika. He's also very close. So you see that. The camera comes out and Guru Maharaj is here and then faces. They get in the picture. Of course, it's not harmful if you like to have a picture of yourself with your Guru Maharaj or something. Why not? The person that you've given your heart out to, the person who you want to give your life to as your shelter, that's also natural. That's not bad. But sometimes we see that it's all about that. To rise up in some position. But these are no gains. No gains whatsoever. If we chant the holy name, for example, once some of our devotees were somewhere, they were out on a collection program on the streets, they had a table set up, they were selling some things. This Indian gentleman came by, and he saw the neck beads on one of the devotees. So he was visiting America, one Indian gentleman, and he had a bead bag. And he was out in Washington, D.C., visiting the monuments, and he had a bead bag. I think his wife and children had bead bags also. So he saw the neck beads on the devotees. So he stopped at their table and he said, "Oh, you are devotees?" They said, yes, we have heard devotees. Oh, who is your guru? I told him who was their guru, and he said, did you chant 16 rounds today? Now this boy was like, he was 14 years old, or 15. And it was summertime. Now what do most 14 and 15-year-old kids do in the summer? They just want to party. They want to swim, they want to camp, they want to surf, whatever. They want to mountain bike, summertime. But he was out there sacrificing his summer, and he was working the summer on a collection program for the temple in India. So this Indian gentleman said, did you chant 16 rounds today? And he said, well, no, actually I didn't. And then this man just started unleashing on, you're in Maya. You're in Maya. You're initiated and you're not chanting 16 rounds, you're in Maya. And he was just chastising like anything. So this devotee was very humble and just wanted to go back to selling his t-shirts. And but when they came home, they told me the situation. So I said, did you say anything to that man? And they said, no, we just tolerated it. Well, that's very good. I said, but if I was there, you know what I would have said? I'm not as humble as you. I'd have said, sir, do you chant 16 rounds a day? And when he said yes, I'd say, it doesn't seem to have done you any good. It's not all about numbers. It's not all about any particular vows and things like this. Somebody else worshiping the deity, somebody's able to chant. And then I'd ask them, what are you doing out here at the museums? At least we were out here collecting. So there are many things. That's another thing. Touching on the change of heart. There must be a change of heart. Without a change of heart, it's just all an external process. You know that you can follow the 4 regular principles, which even atheists follow in India, by the way. The best of atheists are the Mayavadis, and they follow the 4 regular principles perfect. And you can chant japa from now until the next universe is ready to be manifested, and not make any spiritual progress past nāma-darśana. One has to adopt the method of spiritual progress, and that is not just external but internal as well. Internal as well. And that's the hardest thing to catch, because all the books and all the rules, they're all about the internal process, actually. But it's in one sense not so easy just to put the finger on this. Yes, you have to develop a hankering, a desire. What does that mean? It becomes very, very subtle plane, very subtle plane, internal plane. So I have noticed in a number of at least 3, 4 what I think all of us regard as liberated souls, this strong similarity. There is in them a profound humility before the Vaishnavas, a profound humility before the Supreme Lord, a profound humility before the name, the holy name. Harinam Prabhu. When you say Harinam Prabhu, that means your Lord. The name. The name is your Lord. Kali Kali Namarupe Kṛṣṇa Avatar. In this age, Kṛṣṇa descends as his name. Namarupa. The form of the holy name is our most worshipful Lord. Of course, we're in a situation like this. Have you ever read the prayer by Radharani, Srimati Radharani? She spoke once a prayer. When I heard the name of Kṛṣṇa, I vowed my life to that. When I saw his beautiful form in a picture, I vowed my life for that. Then I heard his flute. I vowed to give my life to that. And she says, but now I don't know what to do. I have vowed to give my life in so many places. But how will I be able to do that? Then her associates, particularly Lalita Devi, consoled her that Krishna's name, Krishna's form, and Krishna's flute, they are all none different than Kṛṣṇa. You have not pledged yourself in different directions. So there is such a thing as spiritual bewilderment. Is that a mundane bewilderment? Radharani is bewildered? No. That is a spiritual bewilderment on a higher plane. So sometimes we may feel like that also. We are surrounded by lords. We have so many to serve. We have the holy name to serve. We have the deity to serve. We have our guru to serve. We have Vaishnava to serve. We have to serve the holy scriptures. We have so many lords to serve. So that is a great benediction, actually. But actually we have to do that. We have to do that. So I was losing thought of what I was saying. So in all great spiritual personalities, we see these common traits. Although they may have their differences, their essential traits, you could say, are one. What did Guru Maharaj Srila Puri Maharaj say in regard to Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja? In regards to Tattva, we are one.
Śrīdhara Mahārāja's Siddhanta and my Siddhanta are the same.
So there will be differences. In fact, one time Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja told, there are no two living entities alike. For every soul that there is, they are unique. They are individuals. And it has to be, because Kṛṣṇa is a supreme individual. His parts are also individuals. Not two of them are the same, although we might find so many similarities. Each living being will have a special contribution to make in his service to the divine, in his service to Kṛṣṇa. A special contribution. You know, they used to say no two snowflakes are alike. You ever heard that saying? You know, the guy that started that is from our neighborhood in Vermont, very nearby. They still say that in Vermont, although scientifically they proved him wrong. They found many snowflakes that were alike. But those are snowflakes. Living entities are part and parcel of Kṛṣṇa. He is a person, he is a personality, and he is supreme, he is an individual. Individual means you have, I don't know if this is the right word, but isolated uniqueness that nobody else has. He has many, on all counts. He's the supreme individual. Whatever aspect of an individual can be found anywhere, Kṛṣṇa has it unlimitedly, to the infinite degree, anything. But ours are all limited, we're finite. But nonetheless, that individuality, uniqueness is there for everyone. So, we cannot look into the world of Vaishnavas having seen one Paramahansa and then expect that the next one will also fit the mold of the previous one. No. The mold will be different. The shape will be different. But the substance will be the same. Now, the other night I told the story, Nityānanda Prabhu, how you got Tripurari Maharaj over the fence with the books. Told the story. How you asked him to read the book and find out what's wrong with it. You know that? So then he passed that on to me later, about 2 years later, in a little different way. I had a discussion with him, and I thought I was doing the right thing. I think everybody does think they're doing the right thing. What everybody's doing, they're thinking it's right, unless you're a crook. And even the crooks think they're doing the right thing. It's just human nature. But we were discussing, and he said, what did he say? Oh, I told him a story. I told him a story how Raghunath Das Goswami, you may know this story. Raghunath Das Goswami was very old, and he was living at Radhakund, and he was very old, like over 100 years old, like that, very old. And every day he would take his quota of prasadam in a leaf cup, in these little leaf cups. And so one day his servant served him his, daily quota in leaf cup. And after eating, he became very ill. He became sick, and he started to run a fever, etc. So they were very concerned about that, so they brought a Kaviraj from Govardhan. When Kaviraj came, diagnosed Raghunath Das Goswami. He said, no, it's all right, it's not serious. He's simply suffering from overeating. So everybody thought, overeating, Raghunath Das Goswami? He's a personified form of austerity. How do you mean overeating? And even Raghunath Das Goswami, who was almost blind at the time, he said, no, I only took my leaf, pata, always take. Then Raghunath Das Goswami became more suspicious. He said, where did you bring that leaf from? Then the servant told, I brought it from Shakistali, which is the next village over. Raghunath Das Goswami said, that is the village of Chandravali. We will not take anything from that village. Send it back. So he made him pack up all the leaf plates that he had purchased there and take them back to the village of Shakistali and come back to Radhakund. So I told Maharaj, Tripura Maharaj, I said, so you see, Maharaj, we have to stay in our own camp. It was my argument. We have to stay in our camp. Then he said, we were talking about Śrīla Prabhupada and Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja. I said, we have to stay in our own camp. And then he said, yes, that's true. And Śrīla Prabhupada and Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja, they are in Radharani's camp. And then I said, what? What did you say? Whose camp? Because till then, my camp idea was institutions. That's your camp. And you have your institution in the spiritual world. That's not our camp. That doesn't even exist. In fact, it only exists. Do you know why any of these societies exist? Do you know why? Because Uncle Sam says they have to exist. If you want to rent a house, open a bank account, and be tax exempt. Otherwise, they don't have to exist. And you know who started it in India? The British. You had to register all your activities, and the Gaudiya Math became a registered thing. Before that, there is no registered. You're in a parampara. You have your initiation, 3 beads, Brahmin thread, mantra. You're in a parampara. The institutions are just part of the modern thing. Our camp is not institutional. I was thinking it's institutional. And we should always find our sadhu-saṅga within the institution again. And by the grace of a compassionate God brother who had gotten the grace of higher Vaishnavas, he could show me it is not about institutions. When we find our Guru Varga, we don't just trace a succession of bodies in this world. That's not our Guru Parampara. We have to trace that not only in this world, but we have to trace that in the spiritual world. Then we understand what is Guru Parampara. Then we are in Guru. But simply we're tracing in this world institutions and bodies. That's part of the thing. But that's not the real thing. It must be traced to the higher level. If we only trace things in the lower level, what is this lower level? In this lower level there are so many misunderstandings, so many bewilderments, mundane, divisions, apparent differences, apparent divisions. But when we trace something in a higher level, then the apparent contradictions are harmonized in a higher plane. So we do have a camp. If you are in this parampara, you are part of a camp. We should know about what that is. What is that camp? And know who is part of that camp here in this living world. In this way we should pick our friends, associates, our closer association, not just by institutions. Prabhus, are there any questions, comments here?
Mars, the other day you were talking about how Kṛṣṇa descends. It's not that we're ascending. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit more. We're hankering for that relationship, but it's not like we can ascend to it so much as we have to be ready for it to.
No. There was a famous, like a saying, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta used to say, don't try to see Kṛṣṇa, but act in such a way that he will want to see you. It's intrinsic to the nature of the jiva and his situation here now. what we are in. We're in the world where everything is gained through assertion. Assertion is the only thing which is respected in the world. You assert yourself. Like this one man saw a devotee the other day in a store in Vermont. He was wearing plain clothes, but he had a sika. And the man said, yeah, well, the goal was to stand out in the crowd, right? He thought that he just shaved his head so that people would look at it. Somehow stand out, somehow be heard, somehow assert yourself. That's the nature of this world. Surrender is the last thing you want to do. Surrender means you lost. Surrender means the loser, the white flag. You go away in chains. You are defeated. You are humiliated. Second place means the first loser. There is only one winner. First place. Second place is the first loser. We're brought up in this culture. That is the culture of the material world. So, assertiveness belongs to that, I will go and I will take. But that belongs to this world. So we can only go high in this world and take from this world. We cannot go high. Ultimately, one can go as far as Brahman by this process of assertiveness. But beyond that, there's no capacity there. Even Brahman is considered a big Maya. A big Maya. Last sneer of Maya. So that world works on another principle. The opposite principle. It works on the principle of submissiveness, gentle behavior, surrender, saranagati. It is called saranagati. So, Kṛṣṇa himself is the supreme assertive being. And he's not attracted to anybody else's assertiveness. Here. He's not attracted to people because he's not attracted to wealth, fame, power, any of the things of that type. He is only attracted to devotion. Without surrender, there is no devotion. There is no real devotion, pure devotion. So, it's intrinsic to the nature of Kṛṣṇa, the nature of that world, and how everything works. Once being admitted into that world, it takes another turn. Kṛṣṇa is very charmed by the assertiveness of his devotees there to lord it over him in so many ways. In the Vatsalya Ras, Mother Yasoda ties him to a binding wheel. In the Sakya Ras, the cowherd boys want to climb on Kṛṣṇa's shoulders and defeat him in some battle and so forth, like this. And also the gopis, they frequently arrest Kṛṣṇa and make him serve the gopis, make him serve Radharani as a slave, as a prisoner. So then it takes another turn, where he's charmed by that assertiveness. But the basis of that is actually their surrender. We read all the stories or pastimes, devotees, they're meeting with Kṛṣṇa. Particularly, let us say, in the Mādhurī Ras. Sometimes, any particular gopi may be told to be with Kṛṣṇa. But she's only there because it is the desire of Radharani. No one has the desire to be an independent enjoyer with Kṛṣṇa in the spiritual world. And there is no competition either, actually. But Radharani creates competition, and by her desire, under her insisting, then Lalita or any other gopis may be with Kṛṣṇa. And the same is true of Baladeva and Sakya. That actually the fundamental desire of every living entity in the spiritual world is to please and to serve Kṛṣṇa. It is one of full submission, total harmony. But when the dramas are being played, or the leelas, the pastimes, then sometimes it appears to be different. but actually at heart. The heart is, it is simply being done to please Kṛṣṇa. He wants to wrestle, therefore Sudam or Subal steps up and says, I'm stronger than you, and I'm ready to prove it. And they wrestle. Or whatever it may be. So, we're in this world, not in that world. We're here in this world, but we're not made of the substance of this world. All those things are foreign to us, actually. That assertiveness, all the things we have to do to survive in this world, they're actually foreign to us. They're not of the nature of the self. People want to draw pleasure from this world. And despite how deep they reach into this world and how great their so-called fortune, be it, the crown jewels, or just a bottle of booze, a relationship, whatever it is, it's very limited, and ultimately it leaves one light. Empty and light, waiting and waiting. And it's a very simple formula. You cannot go beneath yourself for your satisfaction. You cannot fuel a fire with water. You have to fuel a fire with something which is of the nature of fire itself. You can't pour water into a fire and make it burn. Because Agni doesn't dwell in water. Agni dwells in wood, Agni dwells in coal. So you can fuel a fire with coal, oil, so many things where Agni is present. Agni is not present in the water. So, because we are conscious units, we can only find satisfaction in a world of consciousness and by pursuing consciousness. Now, not only are we conscious, not only are we units of consciousness, we're units of serving consciousness. You see? Actually, in this world, we are imitating Kṛṣṇa. If someone says first, we are part and parcel of Kṛṣṇa, we'll all agree. But then someone may argue and say, that's not true, actually. That Kṛṣṇa is a supreme enjoyer. Now, how are you a part and parcel of Kṛṣṇa? Ultimately, everything is Kṛṣṇa. How are we part and parcel of Kṛṣṇa? There are three energies only. Internal, external, and marginal. We say the external energy, then the internal pleasure potency, and then the external, what did I say? External, then the internal pleasure potency, then the living entities. Three, marginal. Then that three is divided into two. One side is the external energy, and the other side is the internal pleasure energy and the jiva. The jiva belongs to the internal potency, not to the external potency. So everything is part of Kṛṣṇa, even the external world. But which way we are part of Kṛṣṇa? We're a servant of Kṛṣṇa. But we have to see, yes, but if I am directly part and parcel of Kṛṣṇa, then how I am servant? He's the supreme enjoyer. So if I'm part and parcel of the supreme enjoyer, I'm also the enjoyer. So we have to qualify the living entity. Which way he is servant of Kṛṣṇa? He belongs to the domain of energy, which is dominated by Srimati Radharani. She's the supreme goddess of the internal potency. She is the internal potency personified. So it's not that it's just a better technique. That's what I'm trying to say. We have our nature. And when we study, and actually, fortunately, that nature has been thoroughly studied for us by others, we simply have to pay attention to it, put it to practice, and we have experience of it ourselves. And then we have even greater conviction to go on. So it's not that it's just, it's a theory, it's a reality, intrinsic with our very self and the nature of the Supreme Lord. It is the only way to know him is through subjective revolution.
Evolution.
Yes.
Good.
Subjective revolution. Evolution. That he has to reveal himself. He is unknown. Śrīla Mahārāja was fond of these words, unknown and unknowable. We have come to know the unknown and unknowable. It is in one sense contradictory. You see? The unknown and unknowable. We have come to know him. Meaning unknown, no one knows him fully. He is infinite. Always, ever fresh, ever new. Unknown, unknowable. But he can reveal himself. That is within his capacity. So, truth is revealed. What is actually truth comes down to us. Once, well, long back, I was preaching in South Africa at a university, and someone said, I've realized the truth. And he pointed to his head. And there was a bhakta, a new devotee with me at the time. And I told him, I said, if he would have said, I've realized the truth, and pointed to his heart, that would have been a little closer to reality. See? The truth is not here. It's not a head thing. You see? It's a heart thing. The truth comes through the heart. By the heart, we don't mean just this. We say here because consciousness is most acutely felt here in the heart. But at the core of our being is where the truth will appear. Not just in our head, in our brain. Very, very difficult to understand Kṛṣṇa with our head. Because the head is just a material element. The brain, the mind, is one of the material elements. So Kṛṣṇa reveals himself, not in his never. You don't find any verses where it says Kṛṣṇa reveals himself so much in the mind, but in the heart. He reveals himself in the heart of his devotees. I think in all over the world, we find ourselves, all of us, guilty of the same shortcomings sooner or later. And that is, we just kind of accept Kṛṣṇa consciousness to a point, and then we just go on with our lives from there. We struggle with finances, things like that. The status quo, particularly in this country. A lot of devotees have, they've met the status quo of middle class America. Homes, businesses, such things. And Kṛṣṇa consciousness is there on the back burner. It's kind of just simmering, you see. But it has to go beyond that, actually. It has to go beyond that. It's not sufficient. It has to become either today or tomorrow or next week. It has to become the single focus of our existence. To the nth degree, as we like to say. Otherwise, by the time life is over, we won't get the Lord of our dreams. It just doesn't come. Why? Someone will have to lead a whole life of sacrifice, devotion, dedication, and the same thing will be given to anybody. No, something will be given. The Lord is not ungrateful. Something will be given. The Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, why we will not accept it. Those who have dedicated themselves to the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani, they will get the same destination of the general class of devotees of Kṛṣṇa? Never. It is not possible. According to our commitment, there will be a reciprocation. According to our commitment. That is not to say everyone takes sannyas, etc., etc. I'm not talking about external living styles. But it has to be this deep heart cultivation. Sincere things. You know, like when you meet people and they ask you your name, you tell them your name, they can't remember it 2 seconds later. Or they, oh, how are you? And sometimes you feel like saying, why do you even ask me? You don't want to know how I am. You know, sometimes you just get sick of small talk. You know? Small talk. Okay, then can we make small talk with Kṛṣṇa? And he's going to accept that? That's enough to endear him and capture him? No. He wants our whole heart. End of story. He wants a good amount of your money, too. Good amount. He doesn't need all of that, but your heart, all of it. He wants it all. And some, I was saying to you, I speak a lot with the young, some of the teenage devotees and things, and others, and I have mentioned a few times that sometimes we have difficulties in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, here and there. Sometimes devotees are seen to go away for a while, sometimes even for decades. But as you said, he'll be back. The assurance is, if you once attempt to give your heart to Kṛṣṇa, you're his forever. And you don't get away. It's like, that's it. You're his forever. You may wander astray for some time. That may true. And that sometime could even be into another lifetime. That is also true. Judge Bharat, what to speak of others. But once a person wholeheartedly, sincerely gives his heart to Kṛṣṇa, then he belongs to Kṛṣṇa. And actually, it comes to a point you can't go away even if you wanted to. There's only one thing that Kṛṣṇa can't save us from at that point. That's Vaishnava Aparadha. Even a sincere soul who gives his heart to Kṛṣṇa, if unfortunately offends those who are so dear to Kṛṣṇa, then this disturbs the relationship so greatly that one may go away from the devotional service. But other than that, even if we wanted to go, not we, they, those who are really surrendered souls, even if they wanted to go, Kṛṣṇa wouldn't let them go. Because they are dear to Kṛṣṇa. So we have heard that we have to serve such personalities. But what can we do for them? What can we really give them? I mean, many of us went out in the streets for practically our whole life, main part of our life, and sold books. And then when that was over, we settled into middle-class America. Well, how is that possible? If just that service was the highest service in all these things, then why didn't it just take us to the highest planes of realization? Fact is, that was an engagement. There is no particular engagement which is
The all in all.
the all in all. Again, we have to give our heart, whether it's in distributing books, worshiping the deity, collecting money for your Guru Maharaj, running a business, whatever it is. It's all about what's happening in the heart. It's all about what's happening in the heart. Now me, I don't even have a heart. You know me? Anybody didn't have a heart? I don't even have a heart. Do you know that?
There was the tin.
And if I have one, it's probably made of stone. Huh?
So there was the Tin Man.
Yeah, he wanted a heart.
He wanted to bring it.
It was
Oh,
lion.
the lion.
Oh, the
Sorry.
lion wanted a heart. Yep, there you go, Narasingha. I want a heart. I need a heart. You wonder sometimes, you look around, well, they're hearts. But Kṛṣṇa gave big hearts to a few. Some people have the big hearts, some have the stone hearts, some have the little hearts. But, and that's true, and it's like, you meet somebody, an exalted personality like Śrīla Mahārāja, Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja. It's not so much their knowledge, their learning, knowing 1,000 slokas. That's not what really captures any of us. It's their heart, their affection, how affectionate they are with devotees. And within that, many things. It's just not a matter of sentiments. Just be affectionate. What is real affection also? It's not the affection we share with co-workers, etc., etc. It's not even the affection that you show your children. Real affection is deeper than that. Although the affection for children is the closest thing to pure affection that there is in this world, actually. The grossest is lovers. That's the grossest affection. That's the most distant from the real. The closest thing to the real thing is the affection we have for children, which is selfless. We don't expect anything from them. In fact, they take all your money and spend it until you're old, and even then, you write them in the will. And when they're little, they tear your eyes out, they scratch them, all types of things like that. We're so tolerant with them. But with our spouse and friends and things like that, we're not so tolerant. So they're all forms of affection, but affection for Kṛṣṇa is... I give this example once. You see the movements of a child, and you know, if the children starts to do something here, everyone will be looking at him just like this. You're so cute. Can you imagine how cute Kṛṣṇa is? If you took all that charm of all the children that exist from all time and put it into one person and multiply it times an infinite number, the charm of Kṛṣṇa. Beauty in the same. Sweetness in the same. Everything in the same. Whatever we find attractive in this world, multiplying it up 1,000, just say a few million times, just for our brain to settle somewhere. A few million times. That is the beauty of Kṛṣṇa. The sweetness of Kṛṣṇa. The charm of Kṛṣṇa. Whatever we find anywhere, then thousands, millions of times greater than that. What happens if we have that experience of Kṛṣṇa in this world? It's not possible. It's not possible. This body, mind, and senses cannot handle it. It'd be an overload. Mahaprabhu showed the symptoms of Mahabhava. His joints used to separate by 6 inches, become dislocated. What is that? That is scripture, Mahabhava. Some bhava comes, the hands are shaking, some goosebumps, some perspiration, chill, some fainting. That's bhava, Mahabhava. He used to perspire, blood, sweat would come out of his forehead, blood. Let's try to sweat blood sometime. See how much that takes. Because of his feeling for Kṛṣṇa, he sweated blood, his joints, and these different types of things are mentioned there. And until his appearance, they were only mentioned here and there in ancient scriptures. They were just a mystery. What is this? Unknown. So, really to experience Kṛṣṇa, we have to have a spiritual body. A material body is not sufficient for that. A full-fledged experience. Therefore, sometimes Kṛṣṇa reveals himself, and sometimes he hides himself.
I had a question about that Sarup. Is it something we strive for, or is it something that will be revealed to us?
Both. If you just, it will be revealed, but if you simply go from here and then you think, well, it's revealed, Hari Bol, Hari Kṛṣṇa, and just inattentively do everything, and go on with life, then when that revelation will come, God only knows. I mean, in the expression that who knows, and a long, long time. But if we are attentive to what our masters are giving us, if we're attentive to that, who are they? Who are they? Who am I serving? What is the mantra that I've been given? I've been given a mantra. I chant that mantra every day. What is that mantra? What is this sound? Where does this sound come from? What is the conception of that mantra? And we give our attention, attentive thought to those things. Then it starts. It starts from attention. You know, sometimes it's said, and it is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. That does not mean just not to hear. It means to be inattentive to the conception, proper conception. Just to be in the hodgepodge of conceptions. Oh, Rama's Ramachandra, this, that, everything just kind of a mix-up. That's inattentive. Attention means to be focused. And we have to focus on the proper siddhanta. When we start to do that, then all these things, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Upadesha, everything, begins to take on a little different glow to that. And you'll find that with the revelation, your own revelation, it appears through attraction. You find certain attraction in certain aspects of Krishna consciousness, certain features. You'll hear something, and as we say in English, it really gets your ear. You get like, what? And you go in this direction. The general concept, you lose interest for. The general concept. For example, one who's focusing deeply towards his perfection doesn't hold an interest for Kṛṣṇa and Dwarka anymore. Although in the beginning we were very interested in Kṛṣṇa and Dwarka. And Kṛṣṇa and Dwarka is Vaikuntha, it's Aishvarya. And the relationships in Dwarka, they're nowhere near as sweet and charming as the relationships that Kṛṣṇa has with his devotees in Vrindavan, you know? So, then in Vrindavan there are many groups. That doesn't mean a devotee is, like this about it, but very respectfully, given the choice, the devotee wants to know about Krishna's Vrindavan activities and the secret of his activities. So, when it is being revealed, you were asking about Swarup, when it's being revealed, it reveals not just all in one fine fancy day, we just wake up and find out what rasa we're in. It doesn't work like that. It's a growing attraction, just like a creeper grows. It grows towards a goal. Ultimately, you have to idolize certain eternal residents of the spiritual world. Otherwise, the creeper just goes, where do I go? You're watering, where do I go? Where do I grow to? One has to have certain ideals. But if we're in the right path, those ideals also come to us. It's not like, gee, I don't know. Gosh, I like Madhu Mangal. No, I don't like Madhu Mangal. Lolita. No, I don't like Lolita. Gee, who are you picking from the Not like that either. But in your own heart, you know. And what you know, don't reveal to others. Then there's this verse, I want to find this verse. Don't reveal your bhajana. If you do, it's spoiled. Don't reveal your bhajana.
No, there's a verse like that.
Don't reveal your bhajana. Then, but what it says, reveal your heart. Yes, that is also there. You'll reveal your heart. But don't just reveal your bhajana to others. Why? Then some pratishta will enter in. And the whole thing will be spoiled. It's the most valuable thing of our eternal existence. So it is to be guarded in many ways. Better one safe step in the right direction than 10,000 steps in haphazard directions and wrong directions. Better to go step at a time in the right direction towards the real thing and not just running helter and skelter. Pujala Ragapata Gaura Vabangi. Saraswati Thakur made this sloka. Always keep the highest aspiration above our head. From a little distance and below, we will regard the highest conception. Not that we will try to make it ours. But in that process of doing that, you'll find that you're being taken there. If you revere the 6 Goswamis for who they actually are, and if you revere Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityānanda Prabhu for who they actually are and what wealth and gift they have given to the world, if you revere that, honor that, worship that, serve that, suddenly you find out that you're there. You're being taken there. You don't have to artificially try to become rasic. But you can't ignore rasa and become rasic either. You have to identify it first in your master, in your guru, in the guru parampara. Oh, this is what they stood for. Oh, this is who they are. This is what they are. And we have to revere that, worship that. What is that verse? I'm very poor with my verses. Means, to the extent that you surrender and offer yourself at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to that extent you will find yourself automatically engaged in the service of Srimati Radharani. If you try to make an independent endeavor there, it won't be accepted. Flat out now, it will not be accepted. There will be personalities to send you away. It will not be admitted. That is a strong, strong rule, if you will. Without surrender to Mahaprabhu, no one can become devotee of Lord Krishna. So, we do one thing, we give our attention very much to one thing, and that will produce the higher goal for us, automatically. You follow what I'm mentioning, what I'm trying to say? So, in terms of our Guru Parampara, particularly Sri Rupa Goswami, the position that he has held, and who is Raghunath Das Goswami, and what is his contribution, and what is all this Parampara, and the mood of Braj Bhakti, we have to give our attention to that. When we've given our attention to this, and to our mantras, and all in a proper accord, then an attachment for that plane of conception will begin to grow. And that we cultivate, it will continue to grow. Pretty soon we'll find out that that's where we're situated. That's where we are. That's our home. Do you follow what I'm saying? What do you mean?
Seems very far away.
Oh, that's because I'm very far away.
Alright.
Yes.
Our Swarup should be in direct relation to who our spiritual master is. So, for my example, I'm a disciple of Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja, and he considers himself the gatekeeper of Vrindavan.
Yep.
So my highest aspiration should be
To work in the video room and produce videos.
my highest aspiration should be to help him in his service as gatekeeper, and not try to overstep him and say, I want to enter into the personal pastimes of Kṛṣṇa.
That's right. Yeah, that's very right. In this world, mainly the devotee, the Vaishnava, simply thinks of himself as a humble servant of his spiritual master. Nonetheless, this book also contains Guru Maharaja's meditations on Manjari Bhav. That is also there. Because, indeed, Guru Maharaj is not a gatekeeper, actually. He's the gatekeeper here in this world. He was the gatekeeper, means guarding the gate, guardian of devotion. But he certainly is not an outpost in the Rasa Lila, as Shiva, Lord Shiva was given. Actually, Lord Shiva is the
He's
gatekeeper.
not a sentry.
He's not a sentry there. He's a member there, a home member there. So then, ultimately, we'll also think, I also want to be a home member there with Guru Maharaj and his clan. But the former is better, actually. To think of oneself as a servant. Try to first feel that. If that revelation comes, oh, actually I'm an eternal servant of my Guru Maharaj. He has accepted me eternally. I'm his. That's very good. That's quite a success. Once when asked, Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja was asked about the devotees and coming to the Guru, he said, yes, sometimes when the Guru comes, he brings some entourage with him. His eternal servants, they also go with him. He said, but for the most part, you should consider yourself as a recruit. And you should try to become accepted in his entourage.
I have a couple of questions. Whereas the other day you were speaking a little bit about, you just mentioned Śrīla Mahārāja discussing a group of servitors in the spiritual world called the Suicide Squad. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
The Suicide Squad. It's not a good topic.
Okay.
Okay.
It's like the topic, die to live. You know?
Yeah.
There was another terminology he had, give to live. He didn't say it very much, but he would also say give to live. If you go out in the world and you say die to live, people just go step right back. So suicide is not a popular word, Suicide Squad. But what he meant is that they were the supreme sacrifice. Those who are prepared with for the greatest sacrifice. And generally we think of devotees in a particular rasa. Saki ras, Dasi ras, Vatsali ras, Mādhurī ras. The Suicide Squad, they are well equipped for all of the rasas. And in any particular rasa or lila, where any particular thing is required, any of those members, they're called Kamanugas, Suicide Squad, they can fulfill it. You see. But that's not true of everyone. At a certain point, the cowherd boys, they just lay awake all night long in their houses talking to each other. And they know something's going on, but they're really not sure what it is. They're just like blocked. But some of the cowherd boys, they have some Madhurya sentiments because they're messengers. They're a little more clued in what is happening. Sometimes in the daytime, Śrīla Guru Maharāja said, sometimes in the daytime, Lalita and a group of her Shakis, they will come to Subal's camp and they will invade their camp in the forest. And they will simply march in and they will say, we want him, and him. And Subal will surrender those cowherd boys. And then they'll take them, follow us. And they'll take them to a lake somewhere like Kusum Sarovar. And they'll tell them, now enter the lake. And they go into the lake and they come up, they're gopis. They are arrested from the Sakiras. And they are taken forcefully into the Mādhurī Ras. But actually it's not by force. They have some sentiment there also. Because it's just different mellows of affection. So they have some awakening for that. And then they are taken to that rasa. But generally, one fixed ras, and that's what they can participate in. But the Kamanugas, they can participate in any of the rasas, and according to rasa, a form is required also, which makes the spiritual world a very dynamic place. By rasa, that determines one's particular form. But here, form determines rasa. We have a particular form, and then we relate according to that, and the form of any other person. But there, it's different. There's first the emotion, the feeling, and that brings about any particular form necessary for the service, or for the pastimes. So why don't we just take a little shot now? When you said that was distant, what did you mean, distant?
Just like, sometimes I see the seed, but I can't really envision how it will grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a very nice description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Sanatana Goswami, and he's describing the growth of the Bhakti Lata Bij, in the form of the Bij and the creeper of devotion, and he describes about that. And he, in a very brief way, he describes that. So then, much of the literature, which is presented after that time by the Goswamis, much of that literature is like, what do you call it? Signs on the highway, not milestones. Yeah, like not milestones, like markers on the way, showing the way in detail. And what I mentioned earlier, in the beginning, it's all very general. Everything's so general. Kṛṣṇa, Balaram, Radharani, the gopis, Dwarka, hey, Vishnu, Vamanadev, Trivakra. It's just all like Haribol. It's just all one big general thing. But when it gets specific, and in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Jiva Goswami's purports explain that in Vaidhi Bhakti, 64 angas are there, but when Raganuga awakens, some of those angas are not practiced anymore by the devotees. And the purports are two. He gives two examples. One, he says, even the Dwarka pastimes, particularly the Vaikuntha pastimes, the devotee is not so inclined to those pastimes. He has an attraction to Braj. What is the love of the gopis and the residents of Vrindavan for Kṛṣṇa? The sweetness and the charm of that's his interest. And about Vrindavan, he's very respectful. Actually, Rupa Goswami writes a verse, and he tells, I think he refers, Śrīla Guru Mahārāja, with folded hands, he approaches Lakshmi and Narayan and all the devas, and just says, I just don't have time to serve you. I'm busy serving my Lord in Braj. Please excuse me from my obligations. So, the attraction for, it becomes specific, his area of attraction. And within that, suddenly, one fine day, you'll hear about one of the Lord's servitors, either in Gaur Leela or in Chaitanya Leela. And hearing about that servitor, you'll get another attraction in that direction. This servitor. You'll hear of that servitor's nature, service rendered, what he has done. Then you'll want to find something that he has written, or read one of his kavachas, astakams, or whatever it may be. Some hankering. You might not find anything for years even. We're at a very, very big disadvantage over here in the West. If you're right there in Bengal, Bengali, the whole of Gaudiism is all around you, you may find something. But over here you may have to hanker for years before you find out some particular thing. But it grows like that. Just like a plant, it grows and it touches something, then it goes for that. And then it sends out another feeler, it goes out. When it touches something else, it goes. But those points are being given to us by Kṛṣṇa. They're being revealed to us. And ultimately, that's the path towards Swarup, Nityas, Siddha Deha. realizing one's eternal form, etc. Not the process of being told, oh, you are such and such gopi, you live in this village, you wear this cloth, you do this service. That's the Sahajiya system. We don't accept that system. And I keep forgetting to mention, it's also mentioned that mudras, while worshipping the deity, are given up when the devotee enters into Raganuga Bhakti. You know what a mudra is? Like if this is a cup of water and you want to purify it in deity worship, you go like this. This is a Kurma mudra. Or you go like this. How does it go? This is the udder of a cow. And if you go to the Radharaman temple and many temples in South India and Vishnu, they don't purify anything with water. They purify everything with all these mudras. So Jiva Goswami says that when a devotee begins to enter into spontaneous love, he loses attraction for all this elaborate thing. And if you think about it, and you'll see, yeah, this just puts distance between you and the object of your affection. It's just like
Ceremony.
dinner at home, and dinner at some banquet where everything is tot. Where's the spoon go? It goes over there, okay. All this stuff, You're just like, don't use that spoon, it's a soup spoon. Just like, I want to go home and eat. Let's sit down and take prasada with the devotees. It's just like so much, or somebody is just so rigid, it's just like, relax, relax, Isn't it? That rigidity and all that formality, that's not so sweet. So, like that, there are just certain things the devotee loses interest in. There is a book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in English. It's the last book that he wrote. It's called Swamiya Dwadasakam. It's 12 prayers of self-imposed austerities. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is self-imposed austerities. And they're very charming, very, very nice. And some of them we followed from the very beginning of the movement, actually. He says, I will not wear any cloth which is not first sanctified by the Supreme Lord. So in the beginning of the movement, whenever we bought cloth for the dhotis and saris, it was offered to the deities. At least that's the way it was in Denver. I know it was that way here in San Francisco. Keisha would buy all this cloth and everything just piled up for Jagannath. What was his name? Jayananda? We only wore the prasad of Jagannath. We only took the food of Jagannath. He mentions that, a few of those things like that. And he says, I have no interest in those places of the pastimes of Lord Vishnu. I'm not interested to go there. He just says clearly, I have no interest to go there. No interest. He said, because such visitations do not offer me any service to the divine couple. Why I want to go there. So he's writing here, and another place, you know what he says? He says, I don't want to hear the name of that so-called competition to Srimati Radharani. I don't want to even hear the name of that. But in another place, you'll find Rupa Goswami's describing that. Who is the competition of Radharani? What are her characteristics? Who are her Shakis? What are her glories? And then it's like, well, Rupa Goswami is describing it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying he doesn't even want to hear about it. So what is that? One is called Bhava, the other is called Tatastha Vichar. Bhava, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking from his heart's revelation. He is a servant of Radharani's camp. And just the thought that there's some competitive, personality, something competitive to his mistress, doesn't want to hear it. Once I was in a conversation with a God brother, we were talking about that no living entity serves Kṛṣṇa directly, only through a master servant. And particularly, all service goes through Radharani. He was insisting with some scripture that actually there are some living entities that serve Krishna directly. And finally I said, whatever, I'm not interested. I'm following this. I'm not interested. I say there aren't. You say there is. I'm not interested in what you say. I have no interest in that. I'm interested in this. Servant of the servant of the servant. You tell me there's a chance to serve Krishna directly, finally I have to just tell you, get out of my house. I'm not interested in this. I don't want to hear about it. It's Shastra. I don't care about it. I don't want to hear about that. Arjuna said it. I don't want to hear about all this yoga. The gopis said it. Don't tell us to practice yoga. We're not yogis. We didn't come here to realize the super soul. We want you as our family member. So there are, various levels of pursuing the truth. In the beginning, it's all very general. In the end, it becomes very, very specific. In the beginning, we accept everything. In the end, we may not accept everything. We may leave some things aside. We may reject something. But we should not reject that which is favorable for our devotional service. And the devotees never do. But that which is unfavorable is sometimes rejected. The gopis reject the darshan of Vishnu. They only want Krishna. They cannot be fooled. They will not accept anything less than that.